So this is the iPhone 14 Pro Max and I'm running iOS 27 Beta 2 on here. Let's go ahead and see how this thing runs. We got the iPhone Air over here who's going to time the boot up in 3, 2, go. And I started it from the minute I pressed the button, so you're getting a full boot up time here. And you'll see that the iPhone 14 Pro Max should boot up at a relatively quick time. Even though this is a beta, it's actually running pretty good. But don't expect it to boot up as fast as maybe some newer phones, but still under 18 seconds to boot up. Now, of course, it is finding a network and all that, but you're at least at the boot up screen here in just under 18 seconds. That's remarkably fast for a phone that is now going on like 3 years old already. So for sure, that is a very, very decent time, I would say. Okay, so we're now in the phone, and the first thing I want to do is kind of swipe through and go to app library, because usually on that first swipe, there's a little chop, and there was a little bit there. However, you know, for a beta, this phone has been running pretty good. You won't see like the icons taking forever to load. If I go over here and swipe down, you'll see on that first initial launch when you first boot the phone, they do appear blank, but then they do pop up. So it's kind of like the system loading up for the first time. Now, if I bring it back over here and come back over here, hit app library and scroll through, now everything is preloaded already. So it's just that initial boot up. Let's go ahead and take a look at the first Face ID launch since boot up, and you'll see comes in very smooth. Animation looks very nice. Let's go to a page that has more applications and retry it one more time, and you'll see flies in very nice. Now what I want to do is kind of simulate like you're going really fast and see if we get any chop. So I'm going to do this really quick, and you can see, nope, no chop. Because sometimes I'll be moving quick. You ever moving quick and you're just like flying and all of a sudden the apps kind of just glitch a little? That happens to me sometimes if I'm going too fast. So I wanted to check that. So overall, that's looking very smooth on the animations. Now swiping through the pages here, if we kind of like use the dots down here, you'll see that no delay. And this is why I talk about this being a little bit impressive for a beta, is because when 26 launched, you know, the icons would be loading. Sometimes there would be some chop. It was kind of a mess. So this is a great early on beta, and I'm pretty happy with the performance. I would call it quite amazing for a first, it's actually the second beta, but for early beta stages. And you'll see even editing pages pretty fast. And of course, they did talk about improved responsiveness. And what's nice is that older iPhones for the first time are going to be really focused on getting those enhancements as well with the CPU scheduler. And that's a great thing, because right now we are seeing a lot of rumors of the price increases on the upcoming iPhones. We already seen them on the Macs just a couple days ago, some ridiculous price increases on not only Mac devices, but some other devices like Apple TV 4K, for example. And it's all due to the the AI boom causing a really high increase in costs for memory, and Apple is passing that on to consumers. We'll see how that plays out though, but I think the Fold and the upcoming Pro models are going to be extremely high priced. So holding on and taking care of and updating your older phone might be the way to go for a little while here for sure. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and add widgets here. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a widget and kind of go down here and see. You'll see on that initial launch on the widgets, once again, the icons need to preload. But other than that, pretty good. Let's go ahead and add Apple News widget, for example. Swiping through here, everything looks pretty smooth. Even in some like submenus like this, it would be a little bit slower before. Let's go ahead, and I just seen a little bit of a delay there when we were right there when we were changing it. So it can happen. And you can see a little bit of blinking going on there when we are changing the sizes. So I'm not sure if that's normal or if that's a beta issue right there, but we just found one right there, and then looks pretty good. Now, if we go into the camera, we'll go and see how this thing launches. You'll see pretty good. I don't see the Siri set up in here, but it's probably because I need to sign up for the wait list on this beta. Let's go to settings. We'll scroll down and we'll see Siri right here. And pretty much, yeah, I don't see the wait list right there. So you're not going to get probably all the latest Siri features, but you're going to get some of them. So that's going to be just fine for you there. So launching pretty much most things, I think, really good enough to use this phone day to day. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and launch some apps. We're going to launch all these apps on this page just to see what kind of performance we're getting here. And you'll see Apple's still going with their smooth animation transitions. They're not like making the apps launch like with like no animation. So you're still going to experience that, meaning that when you come from 26, you'll probably not be able to easily see what the differences are. but I assure you, they are definitely, the 27 is definitely going to be faster. We might not see more of a jump until later on during the beta stages, and I am noticing some warmth occurring on the back of this phone right now as I'm holding it. So they definitely, on betas, you definitely might get a little bit more thermal, like you'll feel the thermals a little bit more than on an official version, for example. But here we are with Groupon, and you'll see this opens up pretty fine. But if you're noticing, all of my apps are pretty much launching okay. I might run into an issue on games. Sometimes games lag out or crash out on some developer versions. Looks like that one needed an update right in the middle of the video. So we'll just go over here to Subway Surfers, and you'll see we launch pretty good. And we'll go ahead and hit play. So no real substantial issues there. And let's go ahead and launch RTS. I did remove a few games as I'm not doing a full-on speed test with heavy game testing. I just want to see how apps are launching here. But you'll see right here, doing pretty good here. And we'll go ahead and get up out of there. Let's go to Free Fire and see what happens. And Free Fire does usually launch pretty good in my tests. I haven't really seen this game crash too much in previous testing, so I don't think it's going to be a big issue. But you can see swiping through, no major issues there. We can update it if we want. We're not going to do it in this video, but let's go into Geekbench 6, and you can see iOS 27. We are clocked in at 3.46 gigahertz on the A16 Bionic, 6 gigs of RAM, and you'll see right there Wildlife speed test. I am noticing this phone does launch apps a little bit slower than like 16 Pro Max and up. Of course, with the older CPU, but I think the RAM also is going to affect this phone long term. So that's my only concern with this one. But generally launching these apps, I have to say that it launched most of it pretty good. I think it's safe to say you could use beta even now. You don't even have to wait, like if you want decent performance on your apps. Let's go ahead and launch back between these now. All right, so here we are with these page of apps right here. I'm going to go ahead and see what happens. And you could see holding on to the previous screen pretty good on here. Of course, I removed a few, so that could have affected things a little bit, meaning that if I had more open, it might reload something, but so far doing pretty good. 6 gigs of RAM was when Apple's like phones didn't really start reloading anymore, though. I remember, if I remember correctly. 8 gigs just has made it better, but seems to run everything just fine right there. Now, one of the areas I want to check is Control Center, because Control Center is an area that you can bounce around and start getting some chop. Let's go ahead and see right here. We go and add something. Let's go ahead and add a control. And if we swipe down, you could see pretty good. Before it would be really choppy. I am seeing some chop in here. It's probably because my phone is hot right now, but generally still more smooth than the previous versions. Now, if I go ahead and add a control, you can see this is not giving it any lag right there. Let's go and add another one just for good measure. We'll hit the magnifier and we'll swipe that over, swipe it down. So that seems to be working just fine. I did notice earlier, I'm not sure if it's my font size, but when I had to go ahead and add a control, it was kind of like hard to see right there. Let's go ahead and go over here in the music section. Let's go right here, add a control, excuse me, add a control. Yeah, it's back. But if you noticed earlier down here, the add a control was kind of, you couldn't barely see it. Let's go ahead and hit the power button now, hold that down, see how that works. So that's fine. And all right, so let's go ahead and check the lock screen. So this area has been an area where if you have a lot of wallpapers, you will get some lag. I'm seeing it right here. Tons of lag there because I have a ton of different wallpaper sets. So if you do have a lot of these, this is an area where I'm still seeing a lot of lag. I don't really like this, but for sure, once it's preloaded, again, it's going to perform a little better. But if you haven't turned if you restart your phone or whatever, and it's got to reload things, you know, you are going to see this a little bit. So this area is still not substantially faster. This works fine when you are adding widgets and changing the clocks, but I wish that area where we check the collections was a little bit faster. So let's go ahead and swipe through the carousel to see if we're getting any issues here. And no, none really there. iOS is pretty smooth in that regard. Shouldn't give us too much of an issue. I'm going to go ahead now and run a CPU benchmark here on beta 2 for this iOS 27 on the 14 Pro Max. I'll be back when it's done with its final scores. Okay, so here's the final scores. 2577 on the single, 5903 on the multi. If we take a look at the average scores, mine actually did worse today than the average iPhone 14 Pro Max in both multi and single. I will state though that my phone is very warm, so I am wondering if it is throttling back a bit, but I am going to go ahead and run a 3D Mark Wildlife Extreme test we will just to see kind of how the graphics are performing on here and how much better it is than some other devices out there. So let's go ahead and run that 3D Mark on this 14 Pro Max iOS 27 Beta 2. I'll be back. So here's our Wildlife Extreme score, and we're at 2016 with an average frame rate of 12.1. So score is better than 5% of other scores for the iPhone 14 Pro Max. So definitely they throttled it back a bit. These probably aren't as accurate as we can be. But you know what? I'm going to leave this in the video because while maybe not as accurate due to throttling, it shows that on 27 Beta 2, if you are opening a bunch of apps using the phone heavy, this phone might warm up and throttle. Also 34% better than other devices on the market. But if I go to settings, I do want to show you my battery capacity before you say, well, you probably have terribly low battery capacity. You'd be wrong. I got 100% maximum battery health. So it's not the battery chemistry. It is the phone itself is simply throttling itself under load on 27 Beta 2. So that is something to keep in mind. You know, thermals aren't as efficient on here as the newer phones. So if you're going hard on it, that's where the 14 Pro Max will likely show a little bit of its age. So let's go ahead and do a quick camera launch here, and you'll see that works pretty good. I do want to do these in pretty much all my how does it run tests just to make sure the cameras are performing well if you decide to go to beta, because nobody wants to get a beta experience where their camera just simply doesn't work or shuts down. And so that's it for my iPhone 14 Pro Max video. How does it run? I would say it runs pretty good. On initial boot indexing, you will get some stutter. Also, if it gets too warm under heavier loads, the 6 gigs of RAM has to shut down some things in the background. The phone's thermals aren't as good as the newer phones, so it can slow down if you're pushing it very hard. But for the most part, it's still pretty strong. You know, it's still pretty strong, and it does have a good, really good camera system still that operates perfectly fine. So I think it's okay to try if you're okay with experimentation, but honestly, at this point, you might just want to wait for the official public beta. Let me know your thoughts on the 14 Pro Max for iOS 27. If you found a video helpful, entertaining, or just informing, enjoyable, do me a favor, click that like button for me. It helps YouTube know that you enjoyed this and send it to more people who might enjoy it as well. Also, if you like this video, you might love this one right here. I'll catch you on the next one. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.